Again tonight, if you saw the White House briefing earlier this evening, then you know the news is basically good. The president sees a light at the end of the tunnel. He's thinking we can start making our way back to work, start circulating again. Round about Easter Sunday, he says he'd like to see churches packed on Easter Sunday. In fact, he's been thinking even sooner than Easter. At minimum, he'd like to be able to clear large sections of our country that it's safe to get back out there. Mike Pence reported today McDonald's is doing curbside pickup at select locations. And it turns out Apple had 9 million masks, more than the U.S. Strategic Reserve. Apple has now decided to donate those masks for use by our medical workers. And this caveat, again tonight, back in the real world, the coronavirus news is grim. We are now north of 53,000 cases in this country. The U.S. has found a way to lead the world yet again. Sadly, that's us at the top in red, the highest trend line of new cases. As the Financial Times put it today, we continue to set the pace. It's still true that we have no idea how many Americans have this virus because not enough Americans can get tested. It's also true that testing depends most on where you live and how much money you have. New York is now at the center of this outbreak in this country with more than 25,000 cases. Today, Governor Andrew Cuomo revealed the case count is now doubling every 3 days. He laid out in stark terms exactly what that means.
We haven't flattened the curve, and the curve is actually increasing. The apex is higher than we thought, and the apex is sooner than we thought. That is a bad combination of facts. New York is the canary in the coal mine. New York is going first. We have the highest and the fastest rate of infection. What happens to New York is going to wind up happening to California and Washington State and Illinois. It's just a matter of time. We are just a test case. And that's how the nation should look at it. Look at us today. Where we are today, you will be in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks. We are your future.
The governor of New York, and this afternoon, the president and the vice president offered up their own warnings about America's largest city.
It certainly is by far the, if you call it hot, if you call it any word you want to use, it's a level that no place else is close.
Reality is the New York metro area was 60% of the new cases. If you're in the New York City metropolitan area or elsewhere, to take the guidelines that we issued and avoid non-essential travel.
Now, the advice from the two leading health officials on the White House task force was even more blunt, including this request to anyone who recently left New York City because of the coronavirus.
Everybody who was in New York should be self-quarantining for the next 14 days to ensure that the virus doesn't spread to others, no matter where they have gone, whether it's Florida, North Carolina, or out to far reaches of Long Island. We are starting to see new cases across Long Island that suggest people have left the city.
What we're seeing now is that, understandably, people want to get out of New York. If you look at the statistics, it's disturbing. About 1 per 1,000 of these individuals are infected. That's about 8 to 10 times more than in other areas, which means when they go to another place, for their own safety, they've got to be careful, monitor themselves.
Meanwhile, as you well know, as we've been covering, medical supplies are getting scarce all across our country. New York's mayor predicts the city of New York could run out of ventilators in just weeks. The shortages prompted a fresh round of claims and counterclaims today between the president and the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
FEMA is sending us 400 ventilators. These are on the news this morning. We are sending 400 ventilators to New York. 400 ventilators? I need 30,000 ventilators. You want a pat on the back for sending 400 ventilators? What are we going to do with 400 ventilators when we need 30,000 ventilators? you're missing the magnitude of the problem, and the problem is defined by the magnitude.
We're there to help them. They have to get that gear themselves. We're there to help them. If they don't have, like with Governor Cuomo, he had a chance to order 16,000 ventilators 2 years ago, and he turned it down. He turned down the chance. Now, he can't be blaming us, but we're there to help them.
Quick fact check here from our own Ken Delanian. The purchase of 15,000 ventilators, the mentioned there, was not a recommendation. In fact, the so-called shortfall the president's talking about was based on a state task force report based on a model that used the 1918 so-called Spanish flu as its basis. This afternoon, the White House announced 4,000 ventilators are now on their way to New York, and other emergency supplies are being shipped, as they continue to say, every day around the country. Federal and state officials are also monitoring spikes in cases across the country. New Orleans is seeing a rapid rise of infections. Indeed, according to the governor, the state of Louisiana is the leading hotspot right now in the world. With all that happening, the president is ramping up his effort to, quote, reopen the country. He is eager to remove restrictions, shutting down much of the U.S. in an effort to contain this virus so the country can get back to work, as he puts it. He has even set a date, which he announced today on Fox News.
I'd love to have it open by Easter. Okay, I would love to have it open by Easter.
That's 19 days from now.
It's okay.
Is that true? Is that possible? Or is that false?
I think it's possible. Why isn't it? We have to get our country back to work. Our country wants to be back at work. This cure is worse than the problem. Again, many people, in my opinion, more people are going to die if we allow this to continue. Easter's a very special day for me. And I see it's sort of in that timeline that I'm thinking about. And I say, wouldn't it be great to have all of the churches full? I'm not sure that's going to be the day, but I would love to aim it right at Easter Sunday. So we're open for church service and services generally on Easter Sunday. That would be a beautiful thing.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.